had spent most of my career in politics, in government, in the law, in things that, in my view, were about a broader set of issues and challenges. I was approached by an old friend and mentor, Bill Daley, who was at JPMorgan, wanting me to meet Jamie Dimon. I always like meeting new people. It was at 270 Park, the old 270 Park, and we had a meeting, and Jamie talked to me that day about his beliefs and his values and his view that companies and business leaders and CEOs themselves had to get more engaged in the political process, not just go to Washington trying to get something to their advantage, but supporting policies and supporting programs that would make the country stronger. It was not a meeting I was expecting. I called my wife and I said to her, I think I need to work for this guy. A year later, I was hired and I began this journey. I came in '08 as the head of government relations. My responsibility at the time was how do we interact with the government and with regulators and with policymakers in the United States and Washington and states all around the world. The country was on the verge of a massive global financial crisis. So I had a front row seat to see how critical this firm was to the country and to communities and to the global system. President George Bush said the whole thing may go under. One of the lessons I learned was how quickly Jamie and the leadership of this place adapted. There was no time for memos and emails and convening meetings. He literally had the entire operating committee sitting together in a conference room on the 48th floor of 270 Park because decisions had to be made in real time. And one of the guys who runs public finance came in and he said, we just tried to do a bond sale for the state of Illinois and we literally couldn't sell any bonds. And the result of this is that the state of Illinois was going to go bankrupt if they couldn't sell bonds. There was this big discussion about whether or not JPMorgan should buy any of the bonds. And a few people said, no, that's crazy. We can't put our balance sheet at risk. A few people said, well, let's just buy a few just to show confidence. And after about 5 minutes of this debate, Jamie stopped the conversation and said, buy them all. That was $1 billion worth of bonds. The idea that he made the decision in that moment that we had to take higher risk to save the system, it was one of the earliest indications of the ability of this firm and this institution, with not just the resources, but with the leadership and the determination, could make an enormous difference in the world. That was a searing moment for me. I was hired initially by Bill Daley to be the head of government relations. He left the firm in 2011, and I kind of raised my hand and told Jamie that if it was appropriate, I wanted to be considered for that role. And eventually he asked me to lead up corporate responsibility. One of the things about Jamie and this firm is we're constantly thinking about not just our role as a bank, but thinking about our place in the world. And when Jamie gave me this job, he said, I really want you to look at how we do this job. We give away a lot of money, but it's not clear to me the impact we have. And we went through a process of a good 6 months of really looking at how we use philanthropy dollars, how it lines up with the other expertise we have. And it turned out we were doing a lot of good things. We were probably a mile wide and an inch deep. As we look post-financial crisis, what are the challenges that are relevant to communities all over the country, all over the world, where we have a unique perspective, unique expertise that we can bring to bear in addition to just money? So we're looking at things like affordable housing. We're looking at economic development. We're looking at small business. So we said, instead of doing 50 things kind of okay, let's pick 4 or 5 things that are relevant to wherever JPMorgan does business around the world. Let's not just give away money for charity, but let's think about how we use our resources and expertise in a way that can really solve problems and create models that could be effective wherever JPMorgan operates around the world. There are a lot of projects I'm proud of. It's hard not to say Detroit, because in summer of 2013, Jamie, who has a lot of ideas, called me into his office one day. You never know what that can bring. And he said, I want you to go out to Detroit. They just declared bankruptcy, and I want you to see if there's anything we can do to help. And it was literally just that. There was no, go spend this money, go do this. Just go and test this and see if there's anything we can do to help. And my first trip to Detroit was late September, early October of 2013. And the city was just a mess. The unemployment was 26%. They had 100,000 abandoned or vacant properties. Street lights weren't working. Ambulances weren't showing up. There was a sense that the community had decided we're at our lowest point. We need to kind of turn this around. This new mayor had just been elected on a platform of, I'm going to bring people together. We're going to get beyond the us versus them, looking for someone to blame. The business community was very tied in with the community group. So there was just a sense, and I came away from that first trip thinking, maybe there's something there. And I said to Jamie, I think it's worth testing. And the important thing he said to me is, I don't want you to think of this as we've thought of things traditionally. Any resource you want from the firm is available to you. And when the CEO says any resource is available, you're kind of dumb not to use that. And so we kept going back and bringing teams, and literally over the course of 6 months, identified 3 or 4 key areas where we thought we were uniquely positioned to help catalyze some of the challenges they were facing in terms of housing, in terms of vacant properties, rebuilding their workforce system. I came back and I recommended to Jamie and the operating committee at the time that we make an initial investment of $100 million. There was a lot of raised eyebrows. There was a lot of skepticism about it. And Jamie took the position we had to try, that we had to take a risk. That it's possible we were going to lose everything, but that we couldn't not try. And so in May of 2014, we announced this $100 million investment, and it got a lot of notice because companies had not done this. Detroit at the time did not seem like a great bet to invest, but we wanted to tell the world that the water's warm and we think there's opportunities. And the bet paid off, and the $100 million eventually became $200 million. And we also saw our business beginning to grow. When you bring down unemployment from 26% to less than 6%, and people are working and jobs are being created and small companies are starting and large companies are expanding, that's good for a bank. After 12 years of investing, it's not just the $230 million in economic development investments we made, but we've invested over $2 billion in business investments. And so we continue to grow our business. What we demonstrated is not just that there's no inconsistency between supporting communities and your business objectives. This is a really good thing for our shareholders. If any place is growing and more people are working and there's economic growth, that's a pretty good bet for a bank. Other companies looking at this who are recognizing that investing in communities is really kind of investing in themselves and their own futures. And that's been the thing that I've been most proud of. It really is all about partnership. JPMorgan can't go in, whether it's Detroit or Chicago or Paris, and say, hey, we're the guys here from Wall Street, we're going to solve all your problems. It doesn't go over very well. We thought we could take it to other places. We were looking at an area outside Paris called Seine-Saint-Denis, which has very high rates of unemployment, very high rates of poverty. And we hadn't done something like this outside the United States. And I went to see the mayor of Paris. Her name is Anne Hidalgo. And she was very skeptical about banks. We had this incredible 2-hour meeting in the beautiful Paris City Hall. We ended up talking about what could we do together to actually improve. If there wasn't that kind of support from across political leadership, business leadership, the community, there's not a lot JPMorgan could do. And there have been places that we have looked at that we haven't seen that support. And that's really the prerequisite for where we think we can make a difference. I don't know there's a 2 + 2 = 4 formula. I think there are criteria. Are the people who should be talking to each other talking to each other? A lot of times you go into particularly a city or area in crisis, and there are a lot of different fiefdoms. There's only so much we can do to get people to the same table. And so are people talking to each other? Do you have political leadership who recognizes that there's an important role for business to play. One of the things the mayor of Detroit has said quite consistently is the intellectual investments that we made in Detroit were equally important to the financial investments. And so being able to bring the full force of this firm to bear, there are places that don't want that or are not ready to take that. The formula you have to get to, and it's not going to be the same every place, is do you have those basic building blocks of the kind of collaboration between the public and the private sector that you need. The political leaders who recognize there are some things that are done better outside of government than inside government. And there's some things that government has to do, none of it's binary. And so being able to have that collaboration and partnership and work together to actually solve the problem, that's the formula you're looking for. We are on the cusp of this technological revolution. Every institution, whether it's a private institution, whether it's an education institution, whether it's government, is going to have to adapt quicker and quicker and quicker to these changes in society, these changes in technology, these changes in the marketplace. The ability to adapt quickly, government struggles with that. And I think there is going to have to be a growing recognition that the ability of the government to solve every problem is more and more limited. And the business sector is going to have to step up and play a bigger role. I would argue that it's in the business sector's interest to solve that role. The demand of society for companies to play a bigger role in using the wide variety of resources and expertise they have to help solve problems. And look, you see it in JPMorgan every day, whether it's the SRI initiative, looking at some of our resilience challenges, whether it's Morgan Health, the American Dream Initiative. We can't solve every problem, under the sun, but there are things that we can do. What my hope is, not only we set an example, but we kind of set a pathway for other companies to say, we have to step up as well and do our part. I think we as society are not prepared for the changes that are about to hit us. I don't think we're prepared for what technology and AI, how it's going to impact the workforce, how it's going to impact our education system, how it's going to impact energy use, the wide variety of things. And government is going to be limited into how much they can do. This is where you absolutely need to have this kind of partnership. And I think companies need to recognize that they have got to kind of suit up and do their part to help society get through this transition, figuring out what are the jobs we're losing, what are the jobs that are being created, how does it help navigating a very complex healthcare system, make it easier for people to do that. So the opportunities are immense, but the challenges are immense too. The ability of bad actors to access some of this technology. Everyone can't be just thinking what's best for my company, but what do I do to help society navigate these challenges? What I've done here at JPMorgan over the last 18 years, I'm not sure I could have done other places. You have to know what are the things that excite you, what are the things that you're good at. Knowing what are the things you're not good at is important too. I think there is enormous opportunity for people. What I encourage people to do is be more open to a variety of things that you can be doing. The fact that you've been doing the same thing for 10 years doesn't mean you can't do something new. If you work hard, if you get along with people, if you do what you say you're going to do, if you show up on time to meetings, there are a lot of different things you can do. I mean, I've gotten a lot of satisfaction that people who have come in to work for me doing philanthropy or government relations are now commercial bankers. And some people, they start off in Washington and then they're in New York and now they're in Europe. And so this is a place that I think places a high value on hard work and determination. And there are a lot of different things you can do, and sort of being open to all that, to me, is one of the exciting parts of this place and hopefully wherever you decide to work. Get out of your head. We all spend too much time analyzing and overthinking, but be willing to take risks, be willing to speak up. I didn't come in to this place with any expertise in banking, but I was never afraid to say, I don't understand. It's okay to say you don't understand, And because frankly, if you don't understand, maybe that other people don't understand and they're just too afraid to ask. But speak up, be willing to take some risks. If you think about everything that we have done, much of what we have done over the last 15 years, whether it's Detroit, second chance hiring, the idea was say, hey, let's start hiring more people with criminal records. That's a risky thing. There's legitimate concern about how you do that. And being willing to say, okay, let's work through that. Let's understand what the problem is and let's work through it. And to now be able to look back and very proudly say that we've hired over 21,000 people who are incredibly productive members of our organization who made a mistake but now are trying to put their lives on the right path, that's something to be really proud of. There are things that are going to be done in this firm that are true risks to the balance sheet of the firm. A lot of what we do is not. And it's okay to take risks. It's okay to try things. We tried a lot of things in Detroit that didn't work. If you're not on top of them and say, okay, we tried this, it didn't work, how do we adapt and try something else? I think there's more appetite for risk taking. At least pose the question, should we be trying this? And I think people often get afraid. They think, oh, it's a big organization, someone else has already thought of it. Not always true. And maybe someone's thought of it, but they haven't had the courage to raise their hand and say, this doesn't make sense to me, or maybe we should try this. The ability of a place like this to solve real problems affecting real people is vast. And it would be immoral that we wouldn't use that to the best of our ability. It's often very easy, particularly in places like this, to kind of stay in a bubble. But I take a lot of interest in people. There's no sort of strategy with that. I want to know who I'm working with. I want to know what makes them tick. I want to know what their kids are doing. I want to know the challenges that they're facing. I think it's important. I think institutions like this have a risk of becoming very impersonal. And I think it's important to make it personal. It enhances the experience for me. And I think it's really important that you not just walk by the person sitting at the reception desk or the security guard. One of the security guards downstairs in this building, loves basketball, and every time I come in, we're talking trash about the Knicks or the Wizards. I'm genuinely interested in the people I'm working with, and I want to be in a culture that fosters that. I think too often people just have their head down, and it's hard. You're trying to get through the day, you're trying to answer emails. I mean, you got a lot on your plate. And one of the things I would, encourage people is pick your head up, look around you, understand what other people are doing. To me, that's what has made, at least for me, this experience so impactful and so meaningful. We often forget the easy, simple things that don't cost you anything. That's the sign of leadership. It's about how you treat people, the values you bring, the care you bring, the principles, the character and kind of person you are. When I came here, maybe there were 200,000 people and now there are 350. So there's always been a big place. The number of times I have picked up the phone and called people, bankers, or just people I didn't even know, and I'm said, hey, I'm working on this, can you help me? I mean, even Mayor Duggan tells a story during COVID. There was literally one company who was providing the tests that he needed, and he couldn't get to the guy, and I called the banker, and I said, I'm just trying to get a phone call, and the banker's like, put me in. I want to help. I want to be part of this. It's really an extraordinary thing, and it's an extraordinary place. The culture and the humanity in this place is overwhelming. When I came here, I don't think I even began to imagine the impact we could have and the willingness to have that impact. At one point when we were working on the Second Chance initiative, I was talking to someone at another company trying to encourage them to do the same thing. And they said to me, it's just too hard. And I thought two things. One, it's hard, but it's not too hard. And I also thought, if I ever went back to Jamie Dimon and said, listen, it's a great idea, it's just too hard, that would have been a very short conversation. I think the willingness to do the hard things. Healthcare is a great example of that. We've tried several iterations of addressing healthcare, and the willingness to say, okay, we tried that, it didn't work, let's try something else. There are people who are surprised, why would you walk away from this? I don't feel like I'm walking away from it at all. I mean, one of the things I'm proud of is to see what Tim Berry is doing and the team is doing, and the work is going forward. For everything involved in a big bank, to me, at the end of the day, this place is all about the people. And what I would say to the people at JP Morgan is that you all have a really big heart. And what I would just say from the bottom of my heart is how proud and blessed I feel to have been a part of it. I'm not going to retire. I want to stay active. I want to stay interested. Every day I'm growing more and more comfortable with the uncertainty, in a sense. I kind of know what this year's going to bring. I'm not really sure what next year's going to bring. My wife and I want to travel a little more. I want to play a little more tennis. I'm trying to learn how to play the piano after many years promising myself I would do that. I'm not very good. I feel like I'm at a point there's a lot I can do to still hopefully contribute in an impactful way. And maybe that's just being, a good dad and a good uncle and a good friend to people. I'm excited about the next chapter, even though I have no idea what it's going to be.